Hello, everybody. My name is Andrew Slack. Welcome to West Coast Live. I'm here with Forrest Hanson, of course, and the amazing Michelle Crozier to talk to us about everything that she cares about, especially about community building. That was probably the jankiest intro that I've ever done, but I'm fresh off of no hours of sleep and a whole heck of a lot of Emerald City swing. So
You're in recovery mode.
I really am. And actually, on my screen, I cannot see the feed, so I'm gonna figure this out on my own. It'll be great. But for the meantime,
The feed looks great.
I could see that elsewhere, not so much on my screen. But the feed is up and it's good. So here we go. So yeah, Michelle, hi, and welcome to the show. Thank you for your patience. You're incredible. Forrest kind of gave you a rundown anyway, but why don't we just get started and just talk about yourself and your project and what you're here to talk about and what sign are you and all that great stuff.
All the first aid questions.
Yeah.
Taurus. I am here, I guess, to talk about what I've created in the South Bay dance community with all the amazing dancers here. It's called Do Your Own Swing on Thursday nights. And it's been my first successful attempt at bringing a community of people together to be a dance family. And the numbers have grown and everyone treats each other really well there. And I think that, Do Your Own Swing. I don't know, it's just a really happy little dance utopia. And I think that's what Forrest wanted to bring me on to talk about.
I love
Yeah. I mean, for me, what I thought was great about it is that we get a question a lot on this show around community building and around if I don't have a big local community, how do I create one? And I think that, I mean, it's fair to say that there was, of course, dancing in the South Bay before you took over that dance, and you, in fact, inherited it from somebody else. But what you've really done with it is kind of grown the size of it pretty considerably, and it's become like this very, very active little group. And so I thought that you would be much better suited to answer some of those questions than actually we would, and particularly than I would, because I've never started a dance. So when somebody asks me something like that, I often have a kind of tough time with it. I sort of hem and haw. So I don't know if you want to give kind of the 2-minute version, if you will, of how you got started in running that dance, and you know how you kind of transitioned from doing this as a hobbyist to doing it more professionally.
Yeah, so I guess I'll go for the 2-minute and it might turn into the 5-minute.
Which will spiral into the 20-minute.
We got an hour. You can do whatever.
You got an hour. You got all the time.
Okay,
Also,
cool.
I'd like
So I'm
to,
just gonna
before you
talk
get
really
started,
quick
I
through
just
this.
drank a whole lot of ants. Life's good, guys. Please fill my life with joy now.
All right. So, when I was about 15, I was able to see the movie Dirty Dancing for the first time because it was on at a sleepover at my friend's house, and it was not allowed in my house at home. And the dancing thing looked pretty cool. So I went and talked to the local studio owner and got a job as a janitor there to trade for dance lessons in their youth program. And while I was cleaning up the studio, I got to see a lot of different styles of dancing. So I got to see the hip hop classes, high level ballroom training, and every Monday night there was a West Coast swing dance. And that was my first exposure to the dance. Few years in, I was starting to get better, and a couple of the ladies in that community, who I now call my Monterey moms, because this all took place in Monterey, California,
I love that.
they started asking for private lessons. And so I went to my coach at the time, who was Miguel D'Souza,
Yeah,
and
man.
I asked, do you think that I'm ready for this? Is it okay if I share the information that you've taught me with them? And he said, absolutely. So fast forward about 3 or 4 years, I'm now teaching full-time in the South Bay, and Miguel gives me a phone call and says, hey, I'm ready to have a very normal, wonderful family life, and I'm ready to retire from dancing. And he said, will you take over my dance for me? And I was honored, of course, and started going to his Thursday nights right before he gave them up. And after a couple weeks, he handed it off and said, this is all yours. And it was my first time really getting to manage all of the details of running a community, because I've done it a couple of other times in partnership with a studio or another management. But this one was all mine, and I got to just do whatever I wanted with it. And it's been great.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And I really love that it started with Dirty Dancing.
Yeah. Good place for stories to start.
Well, and I'm. This is how little I'm hooked in now. I had no idea that Miguel. I thought he was taking a hiatus. I didn't know that he had stopped. But like, that's amazing. That's what those are the sort of things that I'd love to hear. Is like someone has that sort of foresight and had, someone like you who was able, like they trusted to, this stuff becomes your baby, and to be able to pass down that legacy is really incredible. I think that says a lot about you.
Yeah, I mean, now that I've created what I have with it, the idea of handing it off to someone kind of gives me a greater appreciation for what he had to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what was that like? Do you remember what your first, let's say, like week or month was like?
Horrible for me.
Okay.
Because I was having like anxiety before every weekly lesson, thinking that I needed to be Miguel to maintain his students and to imitate his style of teaching. And slowly over the course of months, I started offering more of my genuine self. And that is no surprise when the community started to really grow. It's because they were seeing me for who I am and what I have to offer. And I felt so much more confident just being honest with what that was.
So what is that then? What is if you have like a style or a mission statement or something to that effect, what is it? What is that for your community?
I think the one that stayed the most constant through the years, I love mantras. So to have one stick around for a while,
me too.
Means something, is to be of service to the people who are already showing up for you.
Yeah.
So what that means for me is that I haven't actually put a lot of resources into advertisement or outreach. I'm putting all of my energy and resources into the people who are already there and just trying to serve my current audience because nothing has grown my community more than these people going off to their friends and saying, hey, I had this really incredible human connecting experience. And the light and the fire in their hearts brings people in a lot more organically than, say, an advertisement where they don't know anybody where they're going and they're not really sure what to expect from the experience. So yeah, just creating really human relationships with the students that were at the dance already.
You're really cool. Sorry, you can't see it until the later feed, but I'm smiling up a storm over here. Just like, oh, my heart just grew 3 sizes this day. That's awesome.
Oh, thank you.
So
thanks.
I guess with that in mind, what do you do to focus on them? I think that's one of the hardest things is like everybody tries to, because I've started whole scenes before or we're in like the group that started them. And I feel like a lot of times people try to please everybody, even if it is in their main group. Is there a way or a focus, I suppose, that you have? Like, we really like getting together and watching Dirty Dancing every Friday. We have a tradition to go to the hot cake house afterwards. You know what I mean?
We definitely have a tradition of going to other people's dances. Cool. That's something I've really pushed, is cross-pollination, to go collaborate with people from, like Eric Jacobson has an amazing dance every Wednesday, Mission City Swing. We have Next Gen in the area, which is the club that runs Boogie. Yeah. We have Lakeside, Mike Pyle's dance. And they've been so good about taking up the mantle to go like spread the love to these other communities. And in turn, like we've gotten some of their dancers to come visit us. So that's been a really positive sort of influence. As far as other strategies that I just took directly with my community, I just asked them what they wanted. I did it in direct ways and indirect ways. I asked private lesson students, what was your experience of the class this week? Did you feel that the material was advanced without being too much for you to really like be able to grasp and absorb? So like watching the saturation levels of the information that I'm putting out in group classes, as well as just putting out surveys and saying, what do you want to learn? Do you like my DJing? Do I need to be bringing in a guest DJ? Who in the area would you like to have here? What do you want me to cover? What kind of music do you like?
So
it's just
wait. So you're DJing and you're teaching and you're community this is all you?
I mean, it doesn't feel that way because my students are just
well said.
What a great answer. It's like, well, it doesn't feel that way, but yes,
Yeah.
yes, it is. I mean, like every once in a while, of course, you'll have in people to do something. It seemed recently, correct me if I'm wrong, like there are more guest teachers, guest DJs, things like that, kind of cropping up at your dance. But for a long time there, to your point, it was more or less basically you, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I would say for the first long time, I was very happy, but it was quite a strain on me in my personal time.
Oh, I bet.
But then I was in this really nasty car accident in November. And what happened after that was that I couldn't go a full week of teaching private lessons full time without some sort of injury or something slipping out of place in my body.
Oh my God.
And that meant, yeah, so it was rough. But that meant that on Thursday nights, while I was teaching and DJing, I didn't have the ability or the choice really to go social dance with my students as well, which I love to do. But it meant that I was there sitting on the couches and I was standing on the edge of the floor, and I got to really talk to them about their experience of the dance. And they started making offers. They started making offers that I have professional sound equipment. Can I bring it in? Can I bring in a photo booth for your birthday? Can I help you set up? Can I DJ for you if you send me a Spotify link to your playlist? And the offers just started rolling in as soon as they felt like they could approach me.
That's such a good idea. Sorry, I'm listening and I like everything you're saying, but I just latched onto that. Can I DJ for you if you send me a Spotify playlist thing? Like they liked you enough that they would be your proxy.
Yeah.
That's a fabulous idea.
Yeah, I've totally had people in my community do that for me so that I could go home early if I had an early flight to a convention on Friday morning.
Holy crap. Okay. Wow.
It's really clever, yeah, for sure. And we're actually already starting to have a fair few questions rolled in. Before we kind of get to them, if you don't mind, I actually had a first question, and this is just to the extent to which you're comfortable responding to it, of course. But I think that a lot of people sort of theoretically like the idea of dancing professionally. And when they're kind of confronted with the reality of it, there are a lot of reasons not to do it. And so I was just wondering what your experience was in terms of moving from this as being more of a hobbyist to being something that you did for your income, and kind of how did that really feel? How did that work? What was that process like? How did you kind of make that happen? Because it's not like you're living in an expensive area. So
just the South Bay of California. It's hard. It's really hard. And a lot of the challenges are things you aren't expecting, right? I think the physical fatigue is something that you expect. The financial hardships, especially in the beginning, are something that you expect. I think the silent things that you aren't expecting are what really threaten to take you down in this career, which is, even if I don't want to dance today, I have to dance and still also love dancing.
Yeah.
And even if I have a student who is, down on themselves, if you're also feeling down on your dancing, it can be really hard to ground yourself in a place that you can still be of service to them as sort of an emotional guide in the community, especially for newer dancers.
Yeah.
So I was just actually, Forrest, you were at the Competition 101 Q&A when someone sort of asked about becoming a professional. And one of the things that I have as that I shared with them as a tool is that every day, at least once a day, I consider quitting. And I know that sounds very dramatic, but it has actually made my life so much better because it forces me to ask two more questions. Am I still of benefit? And am I still benefiting?
Yeah.
Right? And when you constantly ask yourself those questions and have to bring those two things into balance for yourself more often, things get easier, right? So if I find oh, I am of benefit, but I am not benefiting, what do I need to do that day or that week to feel appreciated, taken care of? I can take my own personal time, whatever it is. So it's making sure that there's that balance of what you give and what you receive.
Yeah.
And it also creates sort of a level of responsibility for the day-to-day task of being a dance professional when you're there by choice, rather than it's just something that you keep falling forward into. Yeah. So I would say it's the emotional fatigue is what caught me by surprise, and tool of constantly checking in with, am I balanced in this lifestyle, is what keeps me going through it.
Okay, great. To kind of move to a couple of the questions that we're getting from people. There was a question from Katrina, and I think that you covered kind of like the first half of it, which was, what are things that you've done that were very effective? And it sounds like the most effective thing you've done in terms of getting people into the dance is being good to your current students, which has the benefit of also just being a generally good thing. So that's great. But the second half of the question was there something that you tried that just ended up not working out for you for whatever reason? Of course, you've been very successful with it, but like people don't wake up and just have that happen. So I'm sure that there was some things that got thrown at the fan at certain points that didn't quite end up turning out. And I'm wondering if you just have any stories related to that.
I would say, so the format for my classes right now is that there's a beginner class, and then there's a bridge skills class, and then an intermediate class. Bridge skills class ended up actually being the solution to beginner students not feeling like there was a safe path to intermediate.
Yeah.
But before that, the offer that I had made was, that if my intermediate students wanted to come early for a beginner class, I would make sure to give them something that they could be working on in their technical dance while they were also working through basics with the beginners. Sort of as a ploy of like, if I make this beneficial for you to be there and make you a better dancer by being there when you come for the socialize. That didn't happen because, but honestly, I think the biggest reason for that is just South Bay area. There is a lot of traffic, and asking to get anywhere earlier than they've conditioned themselves to be there is pretty rough. So that was sort of one idea that ended up needing a different solution.
It does seem like the bridge class that you created, though, has been very successful. So if people aren't familiar with the format, there's a introductory class, correct me if I'm wrong here, then there's a short quote-unquote bridge class, which is kind of transitional concepts, and then there's an intermediate class after that. Like, was there something that pushed you into that structure? Did you find that structure somewhere else, and have you found it to be good and useful?
I didn't consciously pick up the structure from somewhere else. I may have. But when one of my survey results came back and I started getting negative feedback from the beginners who didn't feel good about trying intermediate, but they were also bored beginner. And I was also somewhat more disturbingly getting feedback from my intermediate students that the people who were trying intermediate for the first time were, disruptive to the class.
So for the beginners, was it just that they were afraid, or did they feel unwelcome because of that, or was it like it's just too
like they had to choose boredom or being completely overwhelmed and not getting any benefit? Because awesome. I pride myself on having a really, really high level of technique and concepts in my intermediate class, and it's a huge jump. So bridge class came into play after that survey, when I just wanted to say every week before the intermediate class, I will give you a 30 minutes of prep. Basically, whatever information I'm planning on delivering into the intermediate class, I will give you the tools that you absolutely need to crash course before entering the intermediate class for that week.
That is solid gold.
Yeah. 30 minutes extra. You can add it on to either the beginner or the intermediate class, but it doesn't exist as an independent class. You can't sign up for just that class. You can either use it to continue what you're learning in beginner class, so you review your basics and then get more information, or you can use it as a warm-up into intermediate.
I love it. And Katrina just wrote again, I love the name bridge class. It's more descriptive than beyond beginning or beginning intermediate. Like that's just wanted to echo her. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's a really clever way to structure it for sure. And the questions are definitely starting to flow in here. Andrew, did that like trigger something for you, or do you want to kind of go back to the chat questions and see what we got going?
I think I'm going to be repeating myself an awful lot with you and saying a lot of goofy or simple stuff like, wow, you're swell. Because you frequently the issue I find when I go to other communities, or for that matter just here in Portland, people don't really take the time to do what you do. Like nobody has a bridge class here as far as I know, or anything of the sort. And if they do, it's a completely other leveled, other hour class where you're getting bombarded with more information. You're not given the tools to succeed. Does that make sense? Not that the people here, if they're watching, not that the people here aren't good teachers or anything like that. I've just never heard that concept before. It's awesome. It's very simple and very effective.
It's been great.
You have a heart bigger than your person. It's really sweet.
And it grew 3 sizes that day.
Yes.
You kind of already spoke to a question that Mahela asked here, which was like, how did you go about with the group classes? Were they a progression or were they drop-in? And kind of what format for that worked best? We just talked a lot about class format. So I think that probably spoke to that, unless there was some other kind of detail of that you thought was interesting.
Yeah, so for just speaking to the beginner class, series versus drop-in, every week is drop-in because I never want someone to try to be brave and show up at a dance studio and be totally during that week.
Yeah.
Totally.
But I have to start building a culture in week 1 of a month that, hey, next week we are going to crash course all this material before we move on.
Yeah.
The more of you that show up again together will help the information reach the beginners who are there for the first time that week. So on week 1, I am telling them, this is not your journey, it's our journey. And you guys need to be in this together. And anyone new who shows up isn't to be ostracized. The more you show up here, the more you'll actually help the entire group learn. So while I do escalate the information, it is still drop in, and I have to be really clear with people that the people dropping in on week 4 of the information still need to be taken care of.
Yeah. I'm assuming that you have this, but do you have people who stand out as your go-to, your number 2? I know I can trust Terry to take the class and know the material. Do you have anybody like that? You don't need to name names if you don't feel comfortable either. It was just do you have a second banana?
Right. Yeah. So there's a couple of kids in my community named Kyle Cooney and Seven Lucario. And I offer all group classes to children 16 and under for free. And rather than just using that to enter the intermediate class, they always come early with their parents and take the beginner class. And it's so fun to be able to pull up this little 10-year-old girl in front of the class and have her lead me through the basics, because it's just it's showing all of the non-traditional stuff, right? I have this shorter person being a leader. I have this lady being a leader. And she rocks it. So those kids are super helpful in my beginner class, as well as having their parents there. And then in my intermediate class, I was in Rising Star for 3 years with my partner, Matt Litsky. And whenever he can, he shows up for class to assist me in demonstrating what I'm teaching.
Great. Generosity,
maximum adorable.
Well, my takeaway from that is that generosity works. It's not like, you're a junior, so that'll only be $34. Great. You know what I mean? A lot of places still charge for it. That's sorry.
I didn't have to start paying for group classes until I was old enough to get a job.
Well, I had a job when I was 13, so we could talk about that shit later. So I really liked what Victor was asking here. What is suggestions and ideas to rebuilding a community, growing dance community, but it had issues? How do you rebuild? Because obviously, I guess my first question before that is, was there some taper off when you took over from Miguel?
That's a great question.
Not a lot. I'm not sure I have a good answer for this one. I've been really freaking lucky.
I don't know if luck is really
been good to each other. There were, I have to be delicate in talking about this, but there was, I guess, another project that I was involved in. And then when we needed to end that project on bad terms, some people were aware that there was tension going on.
Oh, yeah. Sure.
They still showed up to support. They didn't try to take on the local pros drama as their drama or take sides, and we didn't ask them to.
That's good.
I don't know if I can really speak to big issues within a community.
Well, you definitely did have, it's not precisely what Victor was speaking to here, because you didn't, it's not like you were in a situation where things were really deteriorated or something. Miguel had a pretty good thing going in the South Bay when he handed it off to you. But you certainly were in a position where you were taking something that was kind of medium and making it bigger than medium, right? So there was a certain amount of kind of quote unquote building going on there. I'm not sure if that's really what Victor was speaking to there or not, but it was definitely a way that you kind of interacted with it.
I guess when it just comes to growing and what?
Nothing. I just like when people talk at the same time. It makes me giggle for some reason. Sorry.
Go ahead, Michelle.
As far as growing an existing community, I've probably had the most success with one-on-one and group format social emotional learning. So telling people what they should expect, how they might feel in a group class, like literally sitting cross-legged on the floor in front of my intermediate class and saying like, today's not going to be any fun, but you need it as a community. In my private lesson saying like, it's okay to feel this way about struggling in class or not making novice semis or whatever. And then ensuring them that you have sort of a vision for them to push through the struggle, right? Like this is going to suck and it's not fun. And I'm super grateful that you're here to sit through it and grow with us. This is where we're going. And that helps them stick through any hard times or anything that might not be as rewarding.
I so badly want to talk shop with you at some point.
But right now?
Well, I mean like that. No, I mean like, do you have 8.5 hours? Like the way that you do this is similar to the way that I approach a lot of my teaching. And so it's just a lot of what you're saying is resonating with me. You know, it's a lot of times it's about teaching people how to be better people or how to accept what is going on in their life. You know, when you're learning new dance stuff, anything for that matter. I'm just really friggin' impressed and stoked about today, you guys. Oh boy. My dear friend, what's that? Like
a really special group class that happens that has always stuck out in my mind. It happened a couple months ago. I could just, this might sound a little like yuppie or yaya or whatever, but I could just sense that the energy during the social dance was becoming a little bit more like introspective and a little bit down, and just kind of everyone was in their own little world, stressed about their own dancing and stuff like that. So in an intermediate class, I went about 75% of the way through, felt that I had done a good enough job of delivering content, and I switched it from how to dance to how to be a kind person. And not that we ever really struggle with that, but I literally just had them go around and dance with each other for 30 seconds, and then I would pause the music like musical chairs. And they had to compliment their partner on what they thought they might be working on. Yeah. So like, I really liked your footwork on that. Like just to, you know, and maybe they were working on their posture and their footwork is just naturally really good. And then I just had the class rotate, and like for about 10 to 15 minutes, they just went around and told each other what they were doing well. And it was great. It's lifted people right out of their own minds and back into community mindset.
So you stopped the dance to help people feel better.
I stopped like 15 minutes of class would basically transition into let's help each other out here. We're all getting a little bit too sucked into our own journeys.
I'm taking notes. Like this is the best. With that similar thing in my a friend of mine posted something within the chat. Alicia Armstrong writes, I've noticed that sometimes people can get a bit cliquey, which that is what's kind of what I'm. Does that ever happen? Does that get your people into a sort of funk? Because I know that there's like the cool kids corner, or everybody dances right next to the DJ. Well, sometimes people feel a bit left out. Do you have that area? Do you kick people out of that area? Are you like round robining this place and lifting spirits?
I guess there's two things that come to mind there. The first one more directly is that, yes, we have groups of people who carpool in together and they know each other well. But I've never seen them reject a dance or anybody approaching them. Like we have a couch by registration that people like to hang out on, and it's a pretty rotating cast. And the people who do like to sit there every week are not territorial about it at all. We even have a girl who likes to make cupcakes and puts them near there so that people can just come through and eat some cupcakes.
What?
So for a bigger picture thing, I really try to lead by example. And so I do everything I can to humanize myself, to make sure that the maybe better dancers or, newer dancers understand that dance level has nothing to do with how we interact on a human level.
Yeah.
So I'll do things like I like to sit on the floor. I'm sitting on the floor right now. But like when my students come into a lesson or into class and have to like sit down to change their shoes, I will sit on the floor next to them so that there's never like a moment where we feel like I am like higher up or looking down. Like I think body language is really important. And I will just make sure that they know if I'm being goofy, or like I will start off dance parties in the corner where I'm dancing like an idiot at a wedding. Just to make sure that, like while I might be the facilitator and potentially the authority in the group, I'm not being closed off or like staying in my own space.
Yeah.
And I think that sets a good example.
So what you're saying is you don't have a studio in South Bay, you have it in a magical land of Narnia after the White Queen. Cool.
We make cupcakes for each other.
Right?
And by the
Yeah.
way, we're definitely doing #cupcakes as our next t-shirt.
Yep.
Let's happen.
Katrina,
Katrina's here right
#cupcakes.
now. #cupcakes.
Her name is Betsy Braun. She's an amazing cook. She will literally work around so many dietary restrictions to make sure the most people can enjoy them as possible.
I have one
She's-
restriction. I want her
angel.
cupcakes. I want them in my
I
mouth.
want them in my mouth.
That's
There
all.
it is. Yes.
Well, come to San Jose. I will host you. You can teach and DJ.
Okay.
It's like deal. All right. So okay, we got one from Kate that I liked because I think this is kind of a tough one for a lot of people, and that's she's apparently hosting a practice group and which has a critique session, and they're trying to kind of like create more of a competitive focus. And is there a way that you kind of help people embrace the competitive process or foster kind of a love positively for competition and transition into that from kind of just being a social dancer, so to speak?
A lot of it, like I mentioned before, is like the social emotional side. Like, let's talk about how long are judges actually looking at you? What are they actually
Talk
seeing?
about it a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, in our Q&A when Forrest was there for Competition 101. But just this idea of, and this is a Brandy Guild thing too, of like non-placement related goals.
Yeah.
So you can pick that specific area of your dance that you think would be good for this individual in your group. You can all kind of maybe assign them one focus, and then they can kind of compare video from one event to the next and see if they've grown in that area. And as each person gets their focus, the group you can kind of like crowdsource ideas from the group on how to do that. Because there's a lot of knowledge out there throughout every level of dance. Like you could have a group of novices there and they'd be able to help each other out.
Yeah.
Yeah, as far as getting them to be healthy with competition, there's a lot of expectation setting before competitions happen, that you applaud everyone who walks on in your division for like routine divisions. For Jack and Jill's, you support everybody, you're kind to your partner. Like in your checklist, when you rotate to them, the first thing you do is like treat them like a person. And we do like mock Jack and Jill's quite often before an event, and just have people like practice being an audience member as well as having eyes on them and learning that can still be a really supportive environment, even when people are there to give them critiques.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of it is just making sure that people feel loved and supported, and that, again, their journey is not just their own, but there are people out there with ideas for them and who have a vision for them as well. And when they come back home.
Which is an unfortunately not that embraced model. Usually it's about how do we keep the doors open and blah, 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 and which is totally legit, but you can't do that without people, obviously, and you're just putting everyone before everything else, and thus everything succeeds. That's powerful stuff. Like I hope people listening and watching and everything can take some freaking notes. I'm gonna steal one or two things, especially sitting on the floor and eating cupcakes. But like leading from example, I often like, not at the risk of sounding too about me and being inspired by what you're talking about. If I have a bad night, it's not like I own the venue that I go to, but if I have a bad night and I just get kind of mopey, I'm like, well, I'm out. Instead of like turning a frown upside down and being like, what can I do that will benefit this crowd, that will make it into the attitude that I want? Like that, I'm gonna be thinking about this interview for a long time, and I'm like, this is making me a better person. This is amazing to me. So
Cool.
legitimate. I didn't look at any of the questions that were popping up. Forrest, did you? Because I was like captivated.
No, it's I think that listenership, more or less the same idea. We haven't had too much else flow in from the chat. I mean, I think that, like, for me, the distinguishing feature of those dances, when I've been down there in that group of people, is that it's a kind of unique combination of people who are like very excited to learn and people who kind of just want to have a good time with it. And I think that what happens sometimes is that in like a dance class context, and you might be able to speak to this, Michelle, or at least the ones that I've been in, particularly when I was teaching more, and that was more in the ballroom community, which obviously has a pretty different vibe to it. The more competitive that you get in a dance class, like the higher level the dance class becomes, the less the focus becomes on having a good experience inside of that class.
Yeah.
And the more the focus becomes on, I am here to get really effing good at dancing. And I think that the trouble that a lot of people have as an instructor is trying to figure out how to like merge those two things into one happy blob. A lot of your students are becoming more advanced. There's definitely been a lot of growth in that community just in the period of time that I've been down there a couple of times, and it's noticeable. As that continues to happen, is there something that you're going to try to attempt to do to keep those more advanced dancers engaged with the kind of softer side of what you're doing down there to a certain extent? Is that something that you're concerned about? Have you seen elements of that appear in any kind of way?
Well, one of the big differences for the way I teach my group classes, which, kicks off the energy for the dance, is I talk to people from a competitor's perspective. I don't tell them, like, here's a cool move for social dancing, right? Like, I think that style of workshop is really on its way out.
Mm-hmm.
I spend most of the time saying, whether you want to be a creator or a competitor, you need these techniques as a common ground so that you can create with someone rather than on the end of their arm. If you want to solo dance, that's awesome. But if you want to partner dance and create with someone, like, you guys have to be agreed on things like basic rhythm and good connection. And in the moments that I see my more advanced dancers maybe not benefiting as much from the information I'm delivering, I will either walk over to them or announce, all of you have something to be working on right now. And maybe it's what I'm saying, but you all know what you need to be working on, so maybe just focus in on that while you work with people who are rotating with you. And I also make it very clear, like, if I'm asking my followers to do a technique, I will talk to my leaders and say, hey, you need to be doing your part as well. So even if I'm only talking to one partner, I'm also being clear with the other side, like, that they need to still stay engaged to create a good environment for that practice. I basically teach as if everyone, and then from there I will just converse with them on whatever level they're actually at.
Yeah, I think that's great. I think that Katrina has just asked a question that is a great dovetail to that. And that, of course, you are both an instructor working with not lower level, but like competitively, a class that's predominantly constructed of novice and intermediate dancers with the occasional advanced dancer thrown in. And then you yourself are a more advanced dancer, an all-star competitor, a rising star competitor, who yourself goes out dancing and wants to have a good experience and all of that good stuff. So from both of those perspectives, both as an organizer and as a dancer yourself, what do you want to do to try to keep higher level dancers coming back to your dances, and what do you yourself want to see in the dances that you go to? Because I think that's something that a lot of communities run into, is that kind of feeling where people get to All-Star and then they like never come out to dance ever again. Thankfully, that's not so much a problem in the Bay, but in a lot of places it does happen.
I'm gonna call it back to, we tend to receive when we give. So a lot of times if I'm hosting like a Jack and Jill, or I would like to have a night off of DJing or whatever it is, I'll I'll just ask the all-stars to sometimes even volunteer their time to come judge a contest or to come DJ. Because usually they end up feeling great by the end of the night because they're giving back into the community. They're getting a lot of appreciation. You know, as you know, like everyone at my dances, they are not like all-star hunters on the dance floor. Like they're all just happy to dance with each other, and if the all-stars on the floor, awesome. But yeah, basically like asking the all-stars to get involved very directly keeps them feeling like, you know, they're contributing and they matter because they do.
Absolutely. No, I think that empowerment is a shockingly underrated part of the equation in a lot of dance environments because because there's one instructor, and I think that it's kind of natural at a certain, I mean, threatened is kind of a strong word, but I think that it's a little bit natural if you're like an all-star level instructor or not an all-star level instructor, an intermediate level instructor, and you have people rolling into the dance who are kind of more advanced competitors or things like that. It's easy to feel on some level somewhat threatened by that. And I think that just empowering more advanced dancers inside a community, whether that's to teach or to DJ or in some role, is probably one of the most natural ways to keep people coming back for more. And I think the way you put it was, you know, really very sweetly said. So.
Well, and I also have a lot of all-stars who either I've worked with on some capacity or they're just friends. They ask if they can teach, because sometimes when you're traveling around as an all-star, it has to make financial sense for you to get involved in a community.
Totally.
That's the way it is. We all know that it's an exhausting hobby, even if it's not like your profession. It can be very tiring on your body to meet the demands of a community when you walk in there, because there's a lot of expectations on all-stars. But yeah, I have offered some of my more advanced students, if they wanted to take over a class, they could like teach my beginner class for me and then see where it goes. Like I am not possessive over my classes. A lot of all-stars who mention that they might want to come, I'm like, well, just come teach, right? Like Andrew, like if you want to come have cupcakes, come work, like come teach, like do your thing.
I will earn those cupcakes.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think like this might be a little off topic, but I was talking to Ben and Cameo the other day about how Do Your Own Swing and Swingtacular are obviously very different entities, right? Like they do different things, they serve different purposes.
Ouch.
But they have a similar energy to them in that they are both just, in our love languages, they are acts of service to the West Coast Swing community.
Who are you? This is awesome. Sorry, go on.
You speak a similar language. It works out great.
Part of me being able to encourage people who might be closing the skill gap or to just let go of a class if it's what makes the most sense for the community is that like I really try to not make it my primary source of necessary income.
Yeah.
Like I want it to be something that I can offer, and I can also like let there be a flow of people coming in and out offering what they have.
Yeah.
So really try to make sure that I'm relying on my private lessons, and then, you know, whatever finances I get from Do Your Own Swing, awesome.
Yeah.
But,
well, I mean, what you just described is like the primary downfall of business in general is this idea that I am the only solution.
Absolutely.
Clearly, that has failed for everyone, you know, with rare exception.
What's that?
Oh, no, sorry, I interrupted what you were saying. Please go on.
You.
Oh, you interrupted me? Well, shush! And no. I was just saying that like what you're doing is the right thing to do. I'm just repeating myself. You know, you don't treat people as a commodity. You treat them as human. You don't have expectations on people who have on anyone for that matter. They're just there to do what they can, and you directly ask people instead of just assuming if they're an all-star or whoever that they are only valuable in one specific way. And maybe, well, for sure it resonates with me because I get treated very, very poorly often. I'm not like a top tier, you know, I'm not Kyle, obviously, or anything of the sort. And so when you're not, as I'm sure you've dealt with, you deal with a lot of people just like come in and don't get paid. And, you know, Delancey von Langendorfer is my partner. I frequently don't get put on. I have to ask to be put on basic, what's the word, advertisement. And so to hear the way that you operate, it gives me hope for myself, for others who want to do this. And just for people who want to come in and have a really great time and have no expectations on them other than like you're going to check in with them. That really sounds like it's the only expectation. Clear, concise communication. Like I obviously you are, but I really truly hope you're proud of what you do because it's incredible.
It brings me a lot of joy.
Good.
Yeah. And there's a lot of exchange of positive emotional energy on Thursday nights, which is the night the Do Your Own Swing is on, not just some random in my life.
Just Thursday's really great.
Thursdays are great.
Just Thursdays in particular.
Yeah, it's the fact that I don't know, I'm very lucky to be caught in like a snowballing of positivity, right? It's something that I've had an issue or had to bring back up from something really negative. It has just been, I'm grateful that you're here. I'm so grateful you're teaching us. I'm so grateful this person's coming in to work. Like I don't know. It's easy at this point. It's like
easy.
Best. It's work, but there's never a question of whether it's worth it, which makes it feel easy.
Yeah, I totally understand.
I think that Mahela's question kind of dovetails with what you just said, which is like, how do you personally recharge and motivate yourself to kind of keep doing this to a certain extent? Because as you were saying, there's that experience where every day you want to quit, or not want to quit, but have an experience of like asking yourself that question, do I still want to do that? But it sounds like that one of the largest sources of kind of recharge for you is just the experience that you are in fact doing a good job with it. And I think that's really underrated. I think that we're not very good often at feeling appropriate satisfaction for like the good things that we create in the world just as people.
Yeah.
And it's very, very easy to kind of blow past goals, even kind of very, very small, simple goals in the pursuit of kind of these very large abstract goals. And it sounds like you've made it a bit of a practice to kind of focus on the moments where you're like, yeah, that was really good. Or like, yes, this feels really great. And I just kind of wanted to point to that as something that I just think most people could probably do a little bit more.
And also, in addition to that, right, like I'm very lucky that this is just this ball of positive energy that I get to tap into. But on bad weeks or, personal downs, it really helps that I have so many areas to work on. So like if I feel like I'm uninspired in lesson planning or teaching, I get to turn to my dancing and be like, well, let me work on myself as a dancer. Like just in June, I switched my gear. Like I felt like before this tipping point, I was living for my community.
Yeah.
Every artistic decision I made, everything I did was for them. And like every competition I entered, any final I was in, I had to be like a role model of what I was presenting to them. Like,
I remember talking with you about that a little bit, actually. Yeah.
And like just in June, I had a double whammy of Jack and Jill Rama being a really good experience, and then getting to spend in like an intensive training time with Brandy Gill.
Cool.
And ever since then, I was feeling burnt out, and so I flip-flopped, and now I'm just focusing on myself as a dancer and being inspired as an artist. And that in turn does feed my community, right? Like focus on those things will only help me help them focus on those things.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
But just like, or if, for whatever god-awful reason, the dance is going kind of okay and I don't feel inspired as an artist, I get to focus on my private lesson students and where are they at? So just the ability to like tap into different, keep using the word journeys, but like the different parts of my journey really help.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a drinking game. Drink tea every time you hear journey. So hydrated.
Well, I have no tea, but I have a jug of water. It sounds great. Okay. Wow. A shout out to Siyoung from my neck of the woods, who just says a very sweet thing to you. He says, Michelle, you are so awesome. I love your philosophy and the way you go about supporting your students, competitors, and community. You are the influence I have always wanted in my community, and definitely someone I will be taking influence from. Smiley face.
Aww.
Thank you.
Maximum adorable. I like it.
Thank you.
So, what is your favorite thing at this point, then? If you could tap into anything that's bringing you the most joy, and you personally, not yeah.
Just me?
Just you, not necessarily like, well, I'm doing this thing that's for, unless it is like, I just did this thing for my community that makes me feel empowered and etc. Is there just, what is one thing that you're doing for yourself? Whether that's to recharge your batteries or to just, self-care or anything like that. What are you doing currently? Is there anything that stands out?
Yeah, my current recharge tools outside of dance are meditation and time off.
Hey, look at that.
I have like a little bit of like self-shame about like, oh, you should just be working all the time. It's so great. Why would you need a day off? But like this weekend, I'm going to Disneyland with some friends.
Yeah.
I went on like a 3-week retreat in Big Sur, and every time I do myself the favor of taking time off, it ends up being a favor to the community because I have like way more energy to out. So I'm taking little tiny 3-day vacations here and there, and a lot of meditation has been key.
It's fabulous.
Yeah, I'm sitting on a meditation pillow right now, actually. So I guess it's not directly on the floor.
It counts. It's
You're floor adjacent. It's
floor
fine.
adjacent.
Yeah, I mean, I think that if we've learned anything so far during this conversation, I would say that the first thing that we've learned is to be nice to other people and engage with things that make you feel deeply satisfied and warm and fuzzy. And the second thing that we've learned is to sit on the floor while eating cupcakes. And I can't speak for anyone else, but I feel like those are two of the better takeaways we've had at the end of any of these episodes.
Good stuff.
I've been highly emotional this entire episode.
I know, right? Andrew's just like sobbing from his face. It's great.
Michelle, I don't know if you have the feed up at all, but I get like the delayed look at the three of us, and I just keep going. Don't cry, don't cry, don't cry. It's beautiful. Shut your mouth, self.
That's awesome. Yeah. Here's the dirty little secret. I can't see Andrew right now on our call. So yeah, that's awesome.
Those of you out in TV land or whatever, Facebook, we do this on a budget. So I only had enough money to get the one input. So I'm running off of my stream cam for this, and my computer will not take another one. So what Forrest and Michelle see is just my initials. That's all. So when you hear us kind of stumble over each other a little bit, it's because you cannot see body language. There's nothing.
This is the bootleg version.
Yeah. No,
yeah, exactly. You're like, oh wait, you go. No, I go. No, you go. Okay. It's just I think the A and S twitched. Maybe he's going. I just got a paycheck. I will make this a slightly less haphazard setup. I apologize.
Should set up a Patreon or something at some point.
My experience at all to not be able to see your face in real time. I think it's great. You're doing awesome.
I think it's great that I don't have to see your face in real time is what I took away from that. That's fine. If you want warm fuzzies, you can go to your own swing.
I don't need to see your face. Get out of here.
But Mom. Okay, so we have about 10 minutes left. Is there anything that you're working on right now that's like particularly passionate? Is there anything that's like a secret project that you get to talk about? I kind of just want to learn more about you as a human at this point. I mean, it seems to bleed into your business, so.
Do I have a secret project or something in the works?
Or something you want to promote or anything like that?
I mean, right now, my project is the journal I have going of lesson plan ideas because I redo it every time there's a convention and I watch my students compete. But I don't think that's what you meant.
No, that's great. It doesn't need to be like, well, I just C-sectioned a man for the first time. It doesn't need to be anything crazy. I journal about everything. I have like a stack of 5 like it's just different subjects and that sort of thing.
Well, that's actually a great point about kind of your process with it. I don't know if this is something that that people will find interesting or not. I certainly hope it is. But how do you go about like building a lesson plan for a class? How did if you were talking to somebody and they were like, Michelle, I am I'm a good dancer, but I've never taught before, or I've never taught a group class before, and I want to start teaching locally because like there isn't a good local teacher, or there isn't a local teacher at all. How do I do that? Is there something that you would kind of tell them?
Good.
So while we are pulling back the curtain here, Forrest can tell you just as well as I can that I overplan the crap out of my lessons. I don't know, crap isn't a swear word, but that's okay, right?
How old?
Andrew says literally everything on this podcast. It's okay. I tried to rate it in for the sake of the juniors out there. I don't know if they're watching or not, but Andrew, it's like...
No, it's okay. It's great. If there's any juniors, cover your ears for the next 30, like maybe 5 to 10 seconds. Shit. See? You're cool. You're fine.
Perfect. So Forrest has seen me lesson plan. In fact, he and I have co-taught a total of 2 hours in our lives, I think. And it's just pages of like 5 to 10 minute breakdown of what I want to be covering.
That's awesome.
The start of all of that is usually me sitting at my DJ booth watching the social dance floor, or when it's timely, I can watch my students dance at a convention and competitions. And just trying to see like what are the common weak areas here, because if there's like a weak area in a community, the teacher probably needs to change that. It's usually that I haven't covered it. And that'll usually give me whatever technique or artistic skill I want to teach them. Mm-hmm. And I'll usually try to break it into about 3 to 4 weeks worth of material so that I can slow build it. It's all technique based, and then I have to remind myself to give them some patterns to apply. To apply it to. So a lot of it is just like look for the need, fill the need. Like what are they lacking right now that would make it a better experience for them too, right? Like because it needs to be for them. It can't just be your own selfish vision of what West Coast Swing should look like.
Michelle wakes up in the morning and says, "How am I going to Gandhi today?"
Oh man. So other question, because now I'm just thinking of all the process questions, right? So as a this sounds a certain kind of way, but like as a single female instructor, and you don't often teach with somebody else, is there something that you have come onto structurally in your classes that tends to work well for you? I know that regardless of being a leader or follow, I certainly have a much harder time when I try to teach a class by myself than when I try to teach a class, even if I just have like a dance dummy that's with, because it could just radically accelerate the speed at which I can demonstrate a concept to have somebody else there that I'm kind of moving with. Is there something that helps you manage that kind of procedurally, or have you created kind of a format that your students are used to where you'll do a little bit of this group and a little bit of that group?
That just sparked a couple of different things in my mind. And so I'm going to need you to remember this question.
Great.
So if I go too far and can't find my way back, you can remind me.
We'll bring it back in.
Well, shameless plug. Remember that West Coast Live is also recorded, and that if anybody misses today's episode, they can go back and watch it again. Okay,
so Do Your Own Swing is named for a very specific reason. And that it is that I don't want any of my students to learn how to dance like me. I want them to learn their own style, their own swing, right? So a lot of my...
It's also really clever sounding, so that helps. But
thanks. Good initials, too. Dio.
What?
Do Your Own Swing is often abbreviated to Dio.
Oh, cool. I thought I didn't hear the os at the end. I just like Ronnie James Dio, famed aging now dead rocker great. Ronnie James Dio.
Good.
Yeah, it's just
all right. Anyways, all right. Okay.
Of what I think of when I'm teaching people technique is how am I going to prepare them to hear all of the different opinions that they're going to receive. And so a lot of that is just teaching a lot of mindfulness and body mapping. And once they are feeling present in their body, I can talk them through several different ways to do any given thing, things that I've heard from teachers that I really respect. And it prepares them to not only start choosing what feels right in their body, but to go to other workshops and not come back and be like, well, this teacher said this and this teacher said this, who's right. It's no, everybody who can back themselves up is right. and now you just need to try things on.
Yeah.
And so because of that, that also helps with me ever worrying about someone like catching up to the way that I dance, is that my hope would be that they never end up dancing like me.
Well, it's
like we will
impossible.
always look at as individuals.
Yeah.
Right. So let's see. This is where, Forrest, I knew that this was the point I was going to need you to bring me back to the question.
Sure. So single instructor, ways that you run a class to kind of make it functional for everyone. I find myself that I'm much slower when I teach just by myself as opposed to when I teach with a dance dummy. And I was wondering, either as a kind of primary follower, although of course you dance both roles, or just kind of as a solo instructor, is there anything that you've found that's been like helpful for being a single instructor in a dance class?
Yeah. Okay. So mindful movement is something that I would consider to be pretty universal, and something that I can offer to leaders and followers regardless of their maybe competitive level in relation to my skill as a leader, especially. So that helps. Let's see. I'm trying to formulate my thoughts here. I think that as a single female teaching professional, it requires that you acknowledge that. Right? So like if I'm ever in a class and I don't feel like I have enough of a set opinion or enough information, I'll say it. Like I'll just say that. I'll say like, here's where, I would recommend you go fill in some blanks, and maybe I can go ask someone about this too. But not ever trying to pretend that I know more than I do.
Yeah. I think that like just in general, acknowledging the limits of your knowledge as an instructor is both a very honorable thing to do and a great way to kind of deflect a certain amount of responsibility taking. And I mean that in a good way, not like in a bad way, but just saying, hey, like let me rephrase. It's really easy to judge somebody for pretending to know more than they know. It's a lot harder to judge somebody who's willing to say, hey, like, you're right, that's an interesting idea. Let's try them both on and see what they feel like, or something like that. And that's certainly something that when I occasionally teach, like, I'm very focused on, and I'll lead with, I'm not a West Coast swing instructor predominantly. Like, this is a thing that I do for fun. There are limitations in my knowledge, and I will try to do the best that I can to give you useful information. So I would just like totally double up on suggesting that one when you first get into teaching.
At this point, though, Forrest, you're like almost 8 years deep. I don't know if you can keep.
Yeah, but I mean,
you're gonna be 45. Like, I've only been doing this for about 20 years, and
20 years.
I'm still not predominantly this. Do you do anything else?
Yeah,
no, not really.
Yeah, I mean, I hear what you're saying. I just think that like it's, for me, I've always been very, very committed to kind of acknowledging the people who actually do this professionally. Sure. Because I don't.
Right.
And I just like, regardless of my, because so I dance in the all-star division competitively, right? And there are plenty of people who teach West Coast swing at a professional or semi-professional level who are not all-star level competitors. But that for me is such a different thing than the life of being an actual dance instructor. Like they're totally different animals. And sure, I might be able to move my body in a certain kind of way, but that doesn't have anything to do with my ability to like communicate that information effectively to somebody else, right? They're fundamentally different skill sets. They reinforce each other, but they're fundamentally different. So like, I just think it's kind of, it's kind of just an honor thing, for lack of a better way to put it. Sure. Like where you just want to kind of acknowledge that, hey, like here is what it is, and you can then make a choice on whether or not you want to pay attention to what I have to say. And if you choose not to, I'm like, okay, that's fine. Like, it's no skin off my back. But we've both kind of covered our own side of the spectrum there. So I just think it's a useful thing to do.
For sure, 100%. And unfortunately, it is about that time, and we have to be done with the episode, which I'm genuinely sad about.
The warm and fuzzies for everyone.
I can't even, like, normally Forrest and I are getting, tons of angry faces, and it's just been this, I lost count on the hearts throughout this episode. Michelle, you're in.
Well, okay, can people throw in a couple angry faces just so I feel like I haven't broken some sort of honored tradition?
Oh,
Officially about to spam the angry
damn
face
it!
button.
All right, just, yeah, could
Happening
everyone
right there.
hate
Yes.
on Michelle for a hot second?
Yes. Yeah,
That'd be
angry
great.
face. No, we might have to change the official emoji of the podcast. It's possible. It might have to be, because typically the angry faces are official emoji, but we might have to switch to the little heart
After
emoji.
this, for today,
Just for this.
jeez, that's a flood of those. Okay.
All right, just for today though. It's the heart emoji, guys. Just for today. We're changing it up.
Anyway,
Oh God, so many people paid attention. The flood, the emoji flood.
I just imagine that anybody like glancing past this who has no idea what the hell we're doing, just
Oh my
sees
God,
all
what are
of
they
that
talking
hate.
about? Yeah, seriously.
Okay, so
Can I just take a second before we actually finish to acknowledge you guys as like phenomenal hosts, because I was so nervous
why?
about this phone call or the Skype.
Why?
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, and you guys just made me feel like, I don't know, you guys got me talking about something that I really care about, and I ended up feeling super comfortable pretty quickly. And just props to you guys.
Well, it's easy
Well, thank you,
to encourage you to talk. Yeah, like Forrest said, thank you very much. But like the way that you are as a person, I'm gathering that this is how you are as a person. You seem very open. You seem genuine. That's extremely easy to engage. It's people who show up with like an agenda and that's all that they have. That is rough. Thankfully, we haven't done that yet on the show. But truly, like, this has been a real treat for me. You are genuine. You have such a big heart, and you care so much about your community and yourself, and that's a really big deal for me. Like I have very, very many self-esteem issues, and you make me feel like it doesn't have to be that way. So really, when I said you fill me with hope, I'm just telling you. All right, I'm wired a weird way. I'm working on it, but I guess just thank you so much for sharing not just your community and all the work that you do, but thank you for genuinely sharing your heart with us today. It's been such a pleasure. And I have a business proposition for you later I want to talk to you about. Spoiler alert, it's going to be awesome. So, like I said, unfortunately, we have to be done for today. So thank you, everyone, for being here. Again, thank you so much, Michelle. This is Forrest Hansen, sweet Forrest. And I am Andrew Slack. This is West Coast Swing Live, or West Coast Live. What are we called? I'm really derailed. This is West Coast Live. Go have the best day that you've ever had, and we will see you again right back here. Bye, everybody. Jeez.